Recording. Okay. Good evening, everyone. We'd like to start the Economic Development Committee meeting. Do we see any courtesy of the floor tonight? Anyone? Okay, seeing none. We have a discussion regarding the Bethlehem Local Economic Revitalization Tax Assistant, and I'm going to call on Mr. Hartney, excuse me.
Yes, he has a. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. How are you?
Good evening. Good.
He has a presentation, a brief presentation for you regarding this particular proposal, which our administration inherited from the previous administration.
Yes.
I've had a brief opportunity to review the proposal, and I've had an opportunity to speak with representatives of Bethlehem who believe this is an important project for them, and that's why we're advancing it.
Great.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Hartney.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Happy to be here. I thought before we would have the city's going to come up and talk about the successes of the South Bethlehem LRTA and explain that. For those of you that are new on council, I wanted to give a brief overview of what a LRTA is. Okay, so LRTA stands for Local Economic Revitalization Tax Assistance. And what is a LRTA and how does it work? A LRTA allows local taxing authorities to provide a tax exemption on improvements made to certain deteriorated industrial, commercial, and other business property. The amount of the tax exemption is a function of the improvement that's made to the property. So whatever the property is producing in taxes before the improvement is made, you don't lose that. So that's always there. It's about an incremental improvement. An example, 30-acre property with no improvements has an assessed value of $800,000 and pays $57,000 a year in taxes. That would be the base assessment. And I've shown how it gets broken out by the local municipality, the school district, and the county. And let's say on that piece of property, a manufacturing company comes in and builds an 85,000 square foot new facility, and now the new assessed value of that property is $5,800,000. The LRTA exemption would only apply to that $5 million of increased assessment. So in a year, it would generate, under this example, about $357,000 a year in taxes annually to the three different taxing bodies. The increase in real estate taxes can be, under a LRTA zone, can be phased in over up to a 10-year period. So in this example, they phase it in at 10% a year. So year one, once the building or the improvement is made and they get their certificate of occupancy is usually what triggers it, they would pay nothing in increased taxes. And then 10% of that $357,000 is introduced over 10 years until it's paying its full share of real estate taxes. So that's one way to structure it. You can structure it any way you want. It could be a flat 50%. It could be a flat 20%. So there's how you input that abatement changes. So the way I view this from an economic development standpoint is you're enacting these zones, and but for that zone, that improvement isn't going to take place, or it's going to take much longer. So in the example that I showed you before, in year one, no taxes would be paid. In year two, $35,000 will be paid, and it gradually increases until they're paying the full $357,000. So under this scenario, you're still getting something for that development, like all of the increment is not being abated, except in year one. And then one of the key things about Alerta, the area, you need to define it as a deteriorated area. And so that's part of what the local municipality does. They usually pass a resolution saying this is defining that area as a deteriorated area, and that can be unsafe or unsanitary and overcrowded buildings, vacant, overgrown, unsightly lots of ground, a disproportionate number of tax delinquent properties. So there's a number of ways to declare an area deteriorated. And so with that, I'm going to invite the city of Bethlehem to come up and talk about how the South Bethlehem LRTA has performed.
Thanks, Mark.
If I don't, I will ask Asher. That one. Good evening. My name is Alicia Miller-Carter. I am the Director of Community and Economic Development for the City of Bethlehem. I have paper copies in case you'd like to take notes. I hope there's enough. The City of Bethlehem has long benefited from the participation and cooperation of the taxing bodies as it relates to LRTA. Our Southside LRTA, or the city's LRTA, has been in place for many years, and we've seen a value to continue the LRTA, modify it, evaluate it, pull it back, make it bigger as our needs have changed over the years. And so what I'll do is I'll do a little overview. I was unaware that Mark was going to go into the detail he did. I appreciate the detail. I'll show you the maps and the amendments and our assessment schedule, and give you reasons as to why this is so important to us, why in Bethlehem it's important for particularly some of the larger users when we're competing with other communities, what that impact is, and go through some of the projects. So this is a neat video that I hope will play. Yes, it is. What this does is it goes through the history. When there's so much has happened in the south side of the city. So Bethlehem Steel declares bankruptcy in 2001. The property transfers in 2004. We decide in 2005 to put the LRTA in place. There were a lot of cooperative efforts by both the state, the 2001 bond from Northampton County, of course, went into infrastructure improvements. But what this slide does is it shows you from 2005 until today the amount of development that has occurred progressively. And I will argue to you that we would not be able to show such development at this location without this LRTA. As I said, the state, county, and private entities put a lot of money into the infrastructure, but when attracting these companies to South Bethlehem, the ability to abate 50% of their property taxes is significant. It's a way of leveling the playing field. And we don't need to spend a lot of time asking them whether or not LRTA benefits. They come forward to us and say the LRTA is a huge benefit to us. And so this slide, like I said, is something we'd like to show because it really illustrates better than I probably can describe to you the progress of the development that has occurred on the south side. So in 1977, the Commonwealth approved the LRTA program. In 1984, we took advantage of that. We focused on the north side of the city. We expanded into the south side in 1991. The county has been a partner throughout this process, as has the Bethlehem Area School District. In 2000, we really made the district much smaller. We knew that we no longer needed it on the north side, and so we decided that we would focus our efforts away from the central business district and into the industrial areas of the former Bethlehem Steel. In 2012, my predecessors had suggested that this include the central business district on the south side, and we have had some projects that have been able to take advantage of it there. And today, we've made some additional modifications I'll get into in a minute. But you can see the city of Bethlehem has approved this Lower Saucon Township because there is a portion in Lower Saucon. The Bethlehem Area School District, there's a portion of the city of Bethlehem in the Saucon Valley School District, and here we are in Northampton County. When you look at the ordinance, it's broken out by numbers, the geographic areas, and so I provide this slide to you so that you can see which geographic area on the GIS pinpoints we're talking about. It's not easy to understand when just looking at the words, and so we've got these into 6 different sections. We are requesting that these areas, which had expired in 2017 on December 31st, are renewed for an additional 5 years. This is consistent with our requests for the other taxing bodies. The expansion areas on this LRTA versus the prior LRTA from 2012 include what we commonly refer to as the well chip property. That is the one on the upper left of your screen. It is probably one of the last remaining industrial properties on the south side. It is a company that refurbishes tanks for air gas and other industries. While they are not actively looking to relocate, we see this as a good opportunity for the south side. It is a isolated user these days, and anything we can do to assist them in finding another location and potentially redeveloping that site would be important to us. The banana factory is pretty much right next to it. You can see Riverport condominiums are the big black square that's to the east of the red line, and so and it's on the river, so you can see what what kind of property we're talking about. The other parcel is 315 Columbia Street. That's a former industrial building. It is under renovation. It wasn't when we proposed this expansion. We've been talking about this LRTA and going through this process for so long. It had been for sale at the time that we introduced this change, and it is now a project called Factory, which is an accelerator. So what they do is they take products and they find ways to accelerate the marketability, the taste. It's all food related. They aren't completely renovating the building. They're not doing anything to expand on the footprint. So we're not certain whether or not LRTA is going to be an advantage to them, but they may see an opportunity for growth. And if they can, there's a couple of small outbuildings. If they can tear this down and put an addition on the property, they could benefit from the LRTA. And if this is something that would help them do that sooner rather than later, we'd like to see that happen. So there's the assessment schedule. Mark had shown that to you through his presentation. We don't always use this in the city of Bethlehem, but for the south side, this has long been the assessment schedule that we use. So why do we want to do this? We believe it's a fiscally responsible tool. Unlike other tools where we're giving it away in hopes of getting something, you don't get anything unless you do something. So this is an important tool for us. We know that we're competing with the greenfields within the community. It's much easier to develop a nice rectangle that doesn't have any topographical challenges, that's not a brownfield, and that's in a township with a lower tax base. In Bethlehem, that's not what we're dealing with. We're dealing with irregular shaped lots. We're dealing with sloped ground. We're dealing with environmental concerns. And so these are all things that sometimes scare a prospect away. It's harder to get them to the table at this location, and sometimes we need this incentive to say, hey, listen, it's not going to cost you what you suspect it may because it's the city of Bethlehem. With a renewal, with a 5-year renewal, it gives us the opportunity to see how is this program working. We evaluate it on more than every 5 years. I mean, we're constantly evaluating these programs, but it gives us the opportunity to come back to you and say this has worked, and here are the numbers, and make modifications to the boundaries. So look at the regional tax comparison. This is something that really opened my eyes in 2012 when I was here in Northampton County and working with the property owners and trying to justify the LRTA to the then Northampton County Council. In the city of Bethlehem, our rate is significantly higher than you see in the townships or in other areas of Pennsylvania. So when they can go to Lower Macungie and pay 21, and their tax rate is at 21.84 mils, and ours is at 80 or 82, it's really hard to have a conversation about the benefits of locating in Bethlehem. The LRTA cuts that in half basically for that 10-year period. So we really see this not just as an opportunity to compete with other sites within the Lehigh Valley, but when you're looking at Pennsylvania and other areas, they are either offering LRTAs, they're offering KOZs, they're doing something that makes that attractive from a property tax standpoint. And so we have found that this LRTA program is really what helps us attract some of those companies. We've had 29 applications over 10 years. It's something they take advantage of. We aren't one of those communities that, don't see this as a valuable tool. And there's 4,622 current full-time employees. That's something we surveyed this year. 2017, not 2018. 193 million has been invested to date, with 125 million in tax assessments. So there are other impacts. It's not just about property taxes for us. We have surveyed and have put the numbers together for you here for the EIT, or income tax. We have a business privilege tax, so you can see what the school district and the city have benefited from. Our LST, of course, which is that $52 tax we pay for some of that goes to the school district and to the city. And then, of course, the real estate taxes. I would very much, again, argue that we would not be seeing that $10 million in real estate tax that's available without the LRTA program. And this just shows you who we rely on. We have third parties that collect our EIT, LST, and business privilege tax in the city of Bethlehem. So these are numbers that we're getting from them, and where our real estate assessment numbers have come from. So I'll talk about a couple of projects. Curtis Wright is a project that is near and dear to my heart. I started working on that when I was here. They were a company over in Phillipsburg, New Jersey that wanted to relocate, and they looked at a couple of sites and landed in the city of Bethlehem. We had, they started, and then when I went to Bethlehem, I got to, talk about the opening, which was kind of nice. But that was a $13 million investment, a new 180,000 square foot facility. They're a defense contractor, so they've got 96 full-time employees, very stable company, have been around for more than 100 years. The Wright goes back to the Wright brothers. So it was a nice opportunity for us to attract a New Jersey company to Pennsylvania. You can see some of the photos. This is the last time we'll see the interior of the building. Nobody's allowed in it anymore unless you're with the federal government. Reed Millwork was a company that had a facility right outside of the city and really wanted to expand. When they came to us, they received approvals. They came to the city and said, we have an aggressive plan for expansion, and they were at maybe 150,000 square feet and wanted approvals for 720,000 of manufacturing space. That's a massive facility. They've completed the second phase, and so they've got 429 full-time employees. It's a huge success story. They could have potentially located other places and chose to come to Bethlehem. There's a view of their facility. Vaztech, I think you might have Primark in your file. We've tried to modify these based on new companies that have come in. So Vaztech is one of the newest companies. They've located in LVIP 7. They're a manufacturer that makes screen printing equipment. And so they were over in Allentown, I believe, and they were looking to grow. It's the story that we hear. We are successful, but we want to be more successful, so we want to build a new modern facility. We want to hire more people, and we want to expand our footprint. And so they're at 34 full-time employees. They also benefited recently from our enterprise zone tax credit program from the Commonwealth. So they were able to put together a number of packages to make this an attractive location. Very frequently we see that it's not all one thing, of course. But the companies like this, which attracting manufacturing back to the site is a primary goal for the city. So we're having a little bit of a technical glitch here. I'm forwarding it, and it's not necessarily moving forward. So
We
some
got
of
our
the,
handouts.
yeah, so some of the things, I mean, we want to always talk about the public improvements we put in, the PennDOT's put in through 412, of course. I mean, this area has been an area that we spend a lot of time as not just the city of Bethlehem, the school district, and the county through grant funds and tax abatement programs, but also, the state has been an active and willing partner with us and has helped us, leverage other incentives. So we're currently requesting a 5-year extension for the LRTA that includes those 2 boundary changes. I'm happy to take any questions.
Sure.
So I love when you say you take business away from maybe other counties or other states and bring them into the area.
Well, we don't just take them away. We take them and we grow them.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But the part that I fear about that is kind of, we talked before about the residential area of picking winners loser areas, is that, I'd love to see some business and manufacturing going up in the Slate Belt area. And so now they're trying to compete with something like this, down here, and it's not really, a level playing field then for them in that case. And so that's just one concern.
I think you have to look at what the tax rateables are. I mean, the city of Bethlehem can't compete with Upper Mount Bethel Township's tax rate. Their tax rate is so much lower than ours is. So, you really have to look at what we're, as a community, what we're trying to do with this program specifically, which is make the property tax rate an affordable option for companies that want to grow. So I can't really speak to the Slate Belt beyond,
Sure.
I live there, and I, I'm certainly familiar with the communities there. But I'll tell you that really when we're looking at rateables, I don't think it's a secret. The city of Bethlehem and the Bethlehem Area School District, and which are the non-consistent numbers or entities when you talk about the Slate Belt, really, it's not that our tax rate is lower than, even with this LRTA, than what Upper Mount Bethel Townships is going to be, or Plainfield Townships. I think
Right.
Plainfield is one of the lowest ones around. And so, when it comes to your question, I can't really speak to, I do understand they're considering one in Upper Mount Bethel Township, but I would argue that there's a price the city pays for people in my position, my department, the things we do to attract companies here, and that's part of the benefit of having a fully staffed community and economic development department. And, it's much bigger than just talking about, a number like this.
Yeah, and I will admit that in general, I don't like a lot of these programs, but the LRTA is one that at least because it is based on investment into the area and growth on it, not just a tax credit to move in and so if they invest in the property, even after it's over, they're inclined more to stay. And
yeah, if you look at LVIP 1, for instance, I mean, that park is 50 years old, Carrie, approaching 50, 60, okay? And so if you look at the lifespan of a building, we're talking about a 10-year tax abatement, which, reduces their taxes by 50%, but we're talking about a piece of property that's developed for a much longer period of time.
And it's been occupied, pretty well.
LVIP?
Yeah.
LVIP 1? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple.
I know some big.
Very, and we have companies that have actively, have located or have established operations in LVIP. I mean, it's happening, on an annual basis. It's not like a company's there and, they say our building doesn't work anymore, we're going to move out and leave it vacant.
The when it first started, I know you put it in a presentation, but what year was it? 2001, did you say?
The 1984 was the first time the city of Bethlehem's taken advantage of the LRTA program. I can talk to you a little bit. If you look if you're familiar with the downtown, the north side downtown of Bethlehem, the Hyatt was in the LRTA, the Liberty Property Trust building, 1 East Broad. I mean, these are all office, products, mixed use properties, and when we had this opportunity. I mean, Bethlehem's very unique. Unlike most third-class cities, we had this opportunity for redevelopment of 1,600 acres. Like, when does that happen, right? Mm-hmm. So we knew that we needed to shift our focus on incentivizing the redevelopment of Bethlehem Steel property, and so we moved the LRTA not just from our traditional downtowns, but into the industrial area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the ancillary benefits, eventually, grow outside of the community.
Sure.
And economically.
Yeah, it's not just people who live in the city of Bethlehem that are able to work there.
Sure.
And,
and maybe it'll spread to the Slate Belt, which we hope, right? Any other questions? Mr. Cusick?
Yeah, welcome back. Good to see you again, The slide, you had a regional tax comparison with the millage rates.
Yeah.
I guess my question is that a fair comparison, given that Lehigh County has recently performed a reassessment?
You know, that's a great question. I could look when you compare West Bethlehem with the city of Bethlehem, what those numbers are. I don't have those in front of me. I think if you focus more, though, on Harrisburg and York and Pittston, those are very fair comparisons. I know your desire for countywide reassessment. I know you've spoken of that for many years, and I know that, you know, one of the issues that, or questions that is out there is whether or not LRTA would be needed if we did a countywide reassessment.
Correct.
The reality is we don't have a countywide reassessment. So, and I, you know, certainly don't have a crystal ball to know what's going to happen in the next 5 years. But that's the reason we're in front of you today.
Okay, just to follow up then, I noticed as far as the Bethlehem Steel properties, I wholeheartly agree with the need to incentivize those. But the Region 4 parcel appears to have a significant amount of residential properties. Can you maybe go into some detail as to maybe how much of that is residential versus how much is business?
There is a road with homes in Region, oh, hold on, I'm looking at Region 6. Region 4, that is mostly our downtown. We do afford the opportunity to use a residential. Act 42 is included with this, which is the non-commercial LRTA. So we saw one residential property take advantage of it in a mixed-use building. So we do have those projects that will benefit from it. As we continue to try to incentivize residential units in our downtown, this does become an important tool for us. So we know that we have a deficiency in housing units, specifically in the downtown and specifically in the south side. We did a study in 2014 that showed we had a deficiency of about 1,600 units. And so it does become an important tool for us when looking at these properties. We still have a number of parking lots on the south side that are under redevelopment. We saw a parking garage go up on one, which means we can redevelop
Park more
those.
cars.
Well, we can take those parking lots that are, you know, scattered throughout the south side as surface lots that are necessary for businesses and the economics of the south side, and put those cars in the garage and then redevelop those spaces. So, it is got some residential component to it, but it is mostly our central business district that you're looking at here.
And yeah, I understand that. I think there is a need. I can remember when all those lots were full with steel workers. So, and then lastly, what is the status of the TIF on the south side, and does it overlap or interplay with
No, you
Region
can't have
4?
TIF and LRTA. If you are taking those TIF dollars, you're not going to abate them, and that's what's happened with the TIF district. So those two programs may not overlap. So when you look at this map, you see the big hole in the middle, which is predominantly the TIF.
Okay.
I can tell you that 315 Columbia, which is one of those two expansion areas I showed you, was not in the TIF and it was not in the LRTA, and I don't know why. So it seemed to be one of those missed parcels, which is one of the reasons why we thought it was a good idea to include it in this round.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Do you have any questions?
I'm not on the committee.
Oh.
Yeah,
neither am I. You can still
Well,
ask.
Mr. Cusick
Oh,
isn't.
no, I know. Live committee guys first.
Right.
A question, the 900 block of Main Street, is that part of this?
900 a block of Main Street on the north side?
Yeah.
No. That is a different LRTA that came before Northampton County before the end of last year.
Okay.
So that's the Northside 2027 initiative. We did seek the support and get the support of Northampton County Council in October.
Yeah.
October. Yeah, I'm looking to the guys that.
Okay, that's all I was curious about.
Okay, thank you.
That was all residential.
Okay.
Okay, thank
Thank
you very much.
If I might, Mr. Chairman, just responding very briefly to Councilman Dietz, it's always best, and I agree with you, LRTAs are defensible. They really are. They're a good tool when you compare to some of the other tools that are used. I have very similar concerns to your concerns about the alphabet soup of tax incentives that are out there. And this is from someone who's voted on to approve more of them than you probably ever will. So I come with some experience in supporting these programs. So I'm with you, and I can promise you as we go forward with the Department of Community and Economic Development under my leadership, we'll be asking these hard questions. And it's very helpful when Ms. Carner comes here and she shows us the number of jobs that are created and the millions of investment that come in. That makes it far more defensible. But I promise that you and I are not too far apart on that question, and I'll be asking these questions throughout the next 4 years. Also, we'll be bringing it's a LERTA, right? The Upper Mount Bethel? Yes. We'll be bringing an Upper Mount Bethel Township LERTA to you next month. Okay. So we have that for you. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hartney.
Your next item?
We want to roll right into the next item?
Yep.
Okay, next item is the discussion of the Da Vinci Center.
Yeah, this is a project I believe the Department of Community and Economic Development conceptualized last year when the Da Vinci grant was being considered. And as you know, Mr. Chairman, I've spoken positively about the project when it was an aquarium. I've spoken positively about the project when it morphed into what it now is. Mm-hmm. And I'll continue to speak positively about it because I think I was quoted, the Easton deserves nice things too. And that's not just a flippant remark. Easton has done so much in the last decade to make itself a center of activity, cultural and entertainment activity, that I think this would just be another a draw to Easton to further improve it. So I'm generally supportive of the concepts as they've been developing over time, but we also have to be good stewards of taxpayers' money. And I think that what Mr. Hartney is going to outline for you today is the thinking of the Department of Community and Economic Development. And while I may not agree with every word of it, it is generally the position with which the administration is going to take moving forward as we propose doing something to support the project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. In your packets, there should be a handout of a memo. And, from the department's perspective with this project, we think this is going to be a great project for Easton. Echoing County Executive McClure's comments, this is going to be a game changer for them if they could pull it off. I think where our concern is in how the county's investment was structured, and so the first thing in item number 2, this is a 40-year investment. You can't normally when you make multi-year commitments, and those are really important for projects like this because it shows that there's local support and things like that, and assists them in going out and raising other dollars. But usually when that happens in a project, those funds are capitalized either through a loan or a bond or something. I'm not sure that you can get a 40-year bond or a loan for 40 years while we make that investment. So, the structure of that is a little off to us. And, in looking here, yeah, with that 40 years, it would also, based on their projections on the hotel tax stays, it would take 99 years for us to start seeing a return on that investment. That's a long time, in our opinion. I'll be dead. Yeah. So the other thing that we think is critical to this with the county's investment is that we gave $50,000 as part of this pre-development work, and that was for them to refine their business plan, and a lot of this is going to be based on how many hotel room nights are coming here. When we evaluate this project, we look at how does this bring money into the county, and the two main ways that a project like this will bring revenue to the county is through hotel tax and real estate tax. Well, it's a nonprofit, so we're not going to get immediate real estate taxes from there. So it's really comes down to how many hotel room night stays that will come in, and based on their numbers, we're seeing about $100,000 of direct nights. So, you know, we think that like their business plan really needs to be evaluated and confirmed through that. And part of that $50,000 was for them to refine that. So we haven't even seen their final business plan or numbers associated with that.
Sorry, real quick. What was the 100,000 number? Was that?
That would be the amount of hotel tax that is generated from visitors coming to the Da Vinci Science Center.
Per year.
Mm-hmm. And again, with the changes in the project, I don't know if that number's changed at all. No. So I just think like those numbers need to be confirmed, and our recommendation would be if you're limiting your investment to hotel tax dollars, that it should be based on the amount of hotel tax dollars this project is projected to generate.
Who made up those numbers? $100,000.
Those were numbers that were supplied to the department by Da Vinci. So, and you know, I'm going to take them for now at face value, but I'd like to see some kind of detailed analysis on that to confirm that. And in part, that's what their business plan study is going to be helping us, so that we have something to really look at and pick apart.
I mean, Easton's going to have to build 2 hotels to hold that many people to get $100,000 worth of hotel tax, which is a wonderful thing for the downtown Easton. So if it works and they can build this, and then it's a genesis for building other things, it'll be a really good
exactly
thing for Easton and the county as a whole. So,
Mr. Hardy, this study, did that come out yet?
No.
Okay.
So the investment was made as part of the 2017 hotel tax, and so those funds have been dispersed to Da Vinci, and we just county executive executed an extension on that. They have until June 30th to comply with or to submit a report and finalize their plan.
Oh, okay. All right.
What percentage of the current hotel tax is $250K?
So there
75?
there are 2 pots of hotel tax funding, and this one was the pot that funded the Arts Quest and PBS investment.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say right now it generates about $300,000 a year. I'll have to confirm that, and I can get you a firm number on what's in the budget.
So this one project would commit 75% of the current annual hotel tax?
For that pot, there's also another pot that is awarded competitively every year.
And you can draw upon that one too for the same project?
Well,
Could you clarify, and I'm just going with Tara, because could you clarify, because I know there was one way back when, and then there was a newer one. I was talking to Ms. Zembo about this. Could you clarify the two?
Sure.
I think that would be helpful.
I'll do my best. So there's a hotel tax that is 12.5%, and then there's a hotel tax that represents, I think it's 18.75%.
Remember they passed.
What's that?
Well, they were passed at different times.
Correct. So over the years, as the state allowed the county to increase the amount of hotel tax, that's where these percentages kind of came from. And so in the last go-around that they allowed us to collect, we can collect a 4% tax. The county keeps this 18.75% and the 12.5%, and one is to go to projects that support tourism, and one is to go to projects that support the future
Capital.
So the 12.5% tax. is
future
for-
development of facilities and for marketing purposes within Northampton County to enhance regional tourism. So you have those two pots. Every year we award about $400,000 to $450,000 in what I'll call competitive awards, where we solicit proposals, and on average, I'd say awards there range from like $20,000 to $50,000, and we probably give money to 20 to 35 organizations, depending on the year.
Can you commingle? I'm sorry. Can you you mentioned that they're used for different things. You said about commingling. It would appear to me that would be very difficult. Like you could take it maybe from this pot or this pot, but you really can't.
It kind of depends on what the project is and how it's worded. I think.
Well,
How
we have a
it's
specific
granted.
project here that we're talking about. So
Correct.
Can you commingle with this project that you're talking about?
I don't think there would be anything that would prevent the county from putting money from either pot in it.
Ron, your question is, there was two enacting laws. The first hotel tax, also, we give most of that money to Lehigh Valley Economic Development, and they give it to that money's tourism. That's already divvied up, and we get a very small percentage of that we use every year around Christmas time to give people grants.
Right.
The other law that was enacted was a 2005 hotel tax. That's what we're talking about, that the Vinci wants, that's used to put infrastructure, to build something to draw more tourism. It's very narrow in what it can be used for.
Okay.
So when he's talking about commingling, he's talking about giving them a grant from the 2005 bond, but they can also apply for something else from the other bond that we give once a year. Like we give State Theater money there, and we give other, ArtsQuest got some of that money for something they wanted to do, Chris Kindlemart, I think, or something. So
yes,
they do, although they have one grant, it doesn't stop them from getting money from the other one. But they're two distinct funds for two distinct purposes.
Okay. Yeah, I knew the first one I was familiar with, and I knew that we had to give so
Right.
much to Mr. Sturshik, we had to give so much to Mr. Cunningham.
Right,
so on and
that's
so
already
forth.
divvied up.
I wasn't very familiar with the second
But
one.
this is a 2005 that was enacted by this in 2005, and it enacted this so we could build. And first thing I think Mr. McClure used it on was, and Mr. Derdinger, was ArtsQuest, right? You guys were here at the time. And,
Yeah, and the 2001, I mean, the average recipient is around 15,000. If you average out all the 20, what's given out, and if
Right.
you try to commingle this into it, I mean, you'd wipe out all
Well, you
these
can't.
25 small projects that
Yeah.
throughout
You
the whole
can't- you can't.
county
This
that
is
use
a
it.
distinct, 2005 bond is a totally different
Yeah.
thing of money that we're trying to attempt to
Sure.
use for a bugarium, I think it's called now.
Much of what Mr. Kraft said is accurate. If you want to know some more of the history, in 2005, Lehigh County got special legislation to build Coca-Cola Park, and that enabled them to bump up their hotel tax. They dedicated theirs specifically towards bond payments for Coca-Cola Park. Northampton County, which did fit in that legislation as well, did not have any projects ticketed at the time. We were approached by ArtsQuest and PBS, and that portion of Northampton County's piece funded that up until 2 years ago, I believe, and we fulfilled our obligation under that. And at this point, we've continued to collect that additional tax, but it has not been allocated until last year. We allocated a portion to the Bethlehem World Historic Site promotion. And right now, Da Vinci is seeking a portion of that. And as far as commingling, it's something we have never done.
Okay, makes sense.
Doesn't that depend on how the grant's written, too?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know that I'd recommend
Yeah, sure.
commingling, but
Sure.
Can I ask another question?
Okay.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
I'm trying to get up to speed on, I told Mr. McGee I think this will be the month of Da Vinci, so I have to get up to speed on some of these things. You had said earlier about $300,000 per year roughly coming in?
Off the top of my head, 300, 350.
And of this, and of what we get from the 2005 infrastructure money, if we followed through with what was passed by council, we'd be giving 75% of that money to Da Vinci.
More than that. You'd be giving, if the commitment is 250,000.
Okay.
If we bring in 300,000.
If you bring in, okay.
So.
And this is what, I mean, and this has nothing to do with the merits of the project. I with the board with everybody about doing something for Easton. The question I have is the $50,000 you talked about that was given to them. Is that the money that was meant for a feasibility study?
Correct. Yeah.
Well, here's my concern. The project's changed totally. I mean, other than the big man, I mean, you went from an aquarium to, as Mr. Kraft likes to call it, a bugarium. So, I mean, I'm confused. Even if we get this study back, is the feasibility telling us the feasibility of what it is they now want to build?
Correct. That is what they are working on with the $50,000 grant.
Wait, they're changing directions?
They will evaluate when we get the report from them. I expect it to be based on what it is they want to build now.
And that's why you gave them the extension.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
So, but we don't have that yet. We haven't been able to analyze those numbers.
We have them scheduled for March 1st to come in and present again what their new plan is. So hopefully, I mean, it's 30 days. Hopefully they have everything that we're asking for by then, like a real business plan. So, I mean, just for you know,
right. That
for Ron's edification, he's, you know, we're coming March 1st.
All right.
To tell us the entire plan.
Yeah, I mean, and I hear you. I guess my only concern would be, if I'm not mistaken,
I don't think they will have the business plan.
I know they won't, but they got $50,000 to study the feasibility of this project. And it was just a little portion of how much money they wanted. What did they want, John? Like, altogether, they were trying to raise $250,000, $300,000 to do the feasibility study, right?
Well, they came back for more, and we said no.
They came back, we said no.
It's taken so long up to now, and you did not get the feasibility study, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I think we gave them the money in August, but
we're
trying to figure out when that was, but that's not...
They finally got... So the way hotel tax is distributed, they receive 25% increments when we get paid.
Right.
So after the end of the first quarter, when we receive the first quarter's payments, we would make a first quarter payment to all the grant recipients.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
So just our only caution, and we do not recommend giving out the money the way it has been in the past. We're making changes to the other hotel tax program so that it's given out more on a reimbursement cost incurrence basis, which makes it a lot easier to make sure that 99% follow through with exactly what they said and, you know, provide us with the appropriate documentation. It's just a lot easier to get that documentation if you have the money and you can release the check to them once they provide it, than giving them the money and saying, when you finish your project, please give us that money. So we would recommend the same thing with Da Vinci, that, you know, if this money is intended for the construction of this facility, like, you should wait to actually give them the money until they're ready to construct it. So
understand.
Yeah, that was my understanding. Nobody's gotten any money.
Nobody's gotten any money. And well, they've gotten the $50,000.
Right, yeah.
Correct.
Right, I understood that. Thank you.
I got it. Checks.
So if you have my memo, if there are any other questions regarding that, you know, I'm happy to.
Linda, may I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, it's very hard to hear here because there's some crackling or some paper or something being picked up. But I just want to.
Mr. Kraft. Sorry. Excuse me.
I just wanted to say that if this ordinance is pulled, I understand that the $250,000 for this year that has been a promise to them will go away. So I just want to know, I would like to have some kind of an ordinance or some kind of a whatever we need to do to see that they get money that has promised to them this year. Okay.
Thank you, Peg.
She's still talking.
She's still
She's
on.
still talking, but she's muted.
Peg? Peg? We can't hear you. Peg?
We need a Skype.
I think she went back.
Now, are you okay?
Yeah, we're good now.
Okay. Well, you understood what I said, that $250,000 that was promised to Da Vinci this year. If the ordinance is pulled, that's the problem. So I'm hoping we can do something separately to make sure that they get what was promised them this year.
With respect to Mrs. Farrell's concern, we await your guidance on that issue.
Okay.
That money is, as she correctly expresses, is in the budget for this year. We await your guidance on what to do with it.
Well, if Ms. Ferrero's concerns are what I think they are, if Da Vinci Center comes back March 1st, if for some reason we think it's a stellar idea, we can just put new another ordinance and that money's still there. She thinks it's going to completely disappear if I kill this ordinance and it start over because it's a new project in my eyes.
The money is in the budget and we await your guidance.
Okay, did you get that, Peg?
I'm only going by what Duran told me
Oh,
today.
you got to stop asking Duran questions, Peg.
Right.
But it is correct. The money is in the budget.
Yeah, the money's in the budget, Peg. It's not going to go anywhere if we kill the ordinance, right?
Yes, but if we kill, well, anyway.
We are discussing with fiscal now what would happen should council repeal the ordinance passed last year.
Okay.
And then we'll have good guidance for you on that should you do that.
Okay, thank you.
But
It would
That
just go
makes
back
sense.
into that, back into the hotel plot that we have sitting there.
It's still going to be there.
it's
Yeah.
unclear.
Okay.
I don't have clear guidance yet from fiscal
Okay, I think I
precisely where it
understand what
will
you're
go.
saying.
But as long as you don't allocate it to something else, the money will be there.
Correct.
Well, somewhere.
The money will go unspent and could
In the
be
2005 pot.
potentially,
Yeah.
depending on what you
Stays there.
what you tell us to
What
do
he's-
with it. Where we await guidance.
Thank you,
on
Mr.
that.
McCoy.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Are you? Did you complete?
I don't.
And Mr. Chairman, unless I was. Oh, I'm sorry.
It was a separate question for Mr. Hartney. I saw there was an article about the City of Easton looking at doing Alerta themselves, and I couldn't help but notice that this property is included in their proposed Alerta zone. Were you aware of that? And if so, have you had any discussions with the city about that and the reason
I am
for it?
aware that they were exploring the creation of a LERTA ordinance. I have not seen their LERTA ordinance, so I'm waiting to get information and like an official request from them. As far as that property being located in here, again, depending on how the structure, the project is structured, if the property is tax exempt, you're not going to pay, so LERTA won't benefit them. So.
Sure, Mr. Werner.
First of all, I appreciate the comments from Mr. McCoy, positive comments, and I appreciate the fact that you're revisiting the 40-year program. I know we had our discussions about that, and there were a lot of reasons why some people said yes to it, mostly because you have to fight for your region. The second thing is that I believe what's going to happen now, if this council considers what's going on, is that there will be some honest, straightforward discussions about real numbers that can be handled by this county, so we can contribute, like we did to ArtsQuest. I'm sorry about my voice. ArtsQuest, PBS, steel stacks, I believe that this council will be able to see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel in terms of helping the program, because it's going to be realistically reviewed, not what it was before. And I'm not saying that they were wrong. I'm saying that for some reason the numbers seem skewed. Let's put it that way. And I think that's all been put on the back burner based on the input from many of you. So I hope this council will take it into consideration.
I actually think, Mr. Warner, I think you're absolutely right. And I think they're going to benefit from our active engagement, from not just throwing money at it, but DCED will be there to support them. It won't just be give us our documentation and we'll send you a check. By the way, when I said that I didn't necessarily agree with every word that was in the DCED report, we may, if you decide at one point to support the project at some level, there may be benchmarks that they haven't hit yet, and they'll need some money in order to get to a benchmark. So, there's that too. But they're going to I think they may not see it that way right now, but I think they're going to benefit. This project has a better chance of happening, and I think you and I want it to happen, and I think we all do, actually. Now that we're engaged. We're engaged. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I haven't written any books yet. Mr. Chairman, and just in case I wasn't clear because of some of the discussion about the alphabet soup of tax incentives, if you're going to have a vote tonight as to whether to recommend this or not, I would respectfully submit and request that you recommend this project to the full council tomorrow night.
Okay.
Alert it.
Okay, yes.
I make that motion because we didn't take
Yeah, I was
that
just going to
motion.
ask for that, but I wanted to make sure everybody got all their questions out of the way, and I want to thank
Right.
Mr. Hartney
But you need
and
co-sponsors to
and,
introduce it, right?
from Bethlehem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, to get too close.
But so, Mr. Kraft, I have a motion for the
Yeah, we'll
5-year alerta?
I'll be a co-sponsor on that for tonight when we read it, for 2 weeks when we vote on it.
Okay. All right.
Or a sponsor, whatever you want.
Okay, do we need a vote on that? No.
No.
Okay, thank you. All right. With that, is there anybody else that has anything?
Yeah, I'd just like to say I also support, Mr. Werner and I have the same idea on this the project in Easton, and I support it too. I just want to see them come back with real numbers, and I hope this makes them do it, that we can support it and make it go forward and let it be what it can be, because it can be very good for the city.
All right.
And everybody else, yeah, because all raising ships, rising water raises all ships, or whatever that is.
And I did have a discussion on the phone today with Mrs. Smith, and she's excited about coming in Monday to start over there, and we're excited to have her. So with all that, and if there's nothing else, I'd like to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
Huh?